right, hello everyone, and welcome to our weekly 30-minute webinar. This is Matt Sykes and Mike Stratton with Variphy, a couple systems engineers over here. Okay, before we get started today, I would like to mention that Variphy supports Cube iOS analytics these days. I have a quick sample Cube dashboard up here on my screen. It is quite the popular feature right now. So if that is of any interest to you, just let us know. Okay, so for today's webinar, we're going to focus on the new enhancements and features in the upcoming Variphy 12.4 release. We're going to start off with a quick overview of our company and what we do. We'll jump into a live demo where Mike will guide us through the new functionality upcoming in 12.4. We'll pause for Q&A and get some of your questions answered. During the demo, if you have any questions, make sure to ask them in the Q&A panel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, not the WebEx chat, but the Q&A panel. After Q&A, we will reward one lucky attendee with a $50 Amazon gift card, so hang around and see if you have won. Okay, a quick overview. Let me just get this out of the way. A quick overview of Variphy and what we do. Variphy is the preferred analytics and management solution for Cisco collaboration. We provide industry-leading CDR reporting and call analytics, customizable dashboards and widgets, UCCX reporting, remote phone control, change management, dial plan management. But today we're going to focus on the new bells and whistles in Variphy 12.4. If you have any other questions on any of our other features, we can most certainly take those offline and get those answered for you. Okay. Now, before one more thing before we get started, I am going to talk about our Ninja Enhanced Consulting Services, this feature right here. So this is the new, well, it is actually a newer service offering that we allow, that we provide for our customers. It's a managed consulting service where Variphy SE team, the systems engineer team, will be engaged on a one-on-one basis to remotely provide additional consulting, unassisted reporting, dashboarding, configuration, and system monitoring assistance. This is a service that provides the dedicated Variphy SE to do all the heavy lifting of dashboard and report creations and generations. For more information, please contact us. We'd be more than happy to speak to you further in depth on the service offering. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into the wild. So Mike, I'm going to go ahead and pass you the presenter rights unless you can take them from me. Stop my sharing.
All right, should be seeing my screen. All right, thank you everyone for hanging out with us today. I will be showing you some of the new features that will be included in our upcoming release. This is version 12.4. This is going to be like a high-level overview of the new features and updates. We'll be covering some of the more major and bigger updates in some upcoming webinars. So 12.4 will be available around December 15th. I asked the development team today, and that was what they gave me, around the 15th. So that should be hopefully about 2 weeks. 12.4 should be available to for download off our websites. I am working with a pre-release build. Not everything will be or is contained in the version you see here, but everything that I'm going to cover today is confirmed for the official release. So the first feature that I'm going to talk about is our brute force login protection. We've added this additional security measure to 12.4. And let me kind of show you. So basically, let me cover how it works first. There's 2 scenarios that the software will protect against. One is where a single remote IP address makes repeated failed attempts to log in with any Variphy application user account. The second scenario is where a single Variphy user account repeatedly fails to log in from any source IP address. So basically, if any user or any IP address or any combination of the two repeatedly fail to log into our software, we can put them in basically in jail. And so just to kind of show you the configuration settings, if we go under user accounts and groups, you'll see here under the settings, we have the new settings for the IP address, or the IP address, brute force login protection, and the username brute force login protection. You can turn on both. You can turn on one or the other. Essentially, you set up, how many failed attempts, what the time period is for those failed attempts to occur, and then how long that account is kept in jail. So anything from 1 minute to 12 hours. You can set them up for either or. And then we also have the ability, if you have one of these 2 options enabled, then we can send an alert to an email address or to multiple email addresses to say, hey, this account, this IP address, or this combination has been jailed or locked out due to X number of failed login attempts. So I can demonstrate it real quick. Let me log out. I have a separate user account. So just fail once. Fail twice. 3 times. We could set it for a server number, but 4 times. And fifth time, your account has been locked out or has been locked. Try again later. If you still have trouble, contact your admin. So if I log back in with my admin account, and if I go back to the user accounts and groups, go to settings, you'll now see at the bottom that my account is currently in jail. And so if this was like an accident, someone forgot their password and just fat fingered it multiple times, if I want to let them back in before their lockout expiration, I can hover over if I hover over the trash can icon here, it says release from jail. Click the icon, save it, and now they can log back into the software. Okay. All right. The next two features revolve around the UCCX reporting. The first one will covers the UCCX widgets. We've added in 12.4 the ability to include search sets call details search sets. So essentially, when you're building a UCCX report, or when you're building even a cube or a CDR-based report, you can add search sets to filter your data. Well, now with the CCX widgets, you can add those. You can take the same CCX search sets and apply them not just to the reports but to the widgets. It's for the historical reporting widgets. So let me show you. If we create a new widget, go to CCX. The top four here. So the agent statistic details, the CSQ statistic details, the CSQ summary, and the CSQ time period statistic widgets are all the four historical reporting widgets that these search sets apply for. The real-time ones work a little bit differently, and they have like a different data set. So if I go to create one of these four, my cluster, in the next screen, there's now a new icon for search sets. I can come in here, create a detailed search set where I could filter anything from like account number, application name, caller IDs, the custom variables. I can filter on wrap-up data, talk time, hold times, queue times. So here, this widget here is like a basic widget. I'm just showing total call counts for like the previous for the hours for the previous day. This one doesn't have any sort of search criteria. This is kind of like what you could build within earlier versions or the current version of the software. I took the same widget, copied it, and now I applied a search set to it. I only want to see the calls where the queue time is greater than 30 seconds. So now we can see here total calls. I can see how many calls, or maybe if we have like a certain threshold within the call center of everything needs to be answered within 30 seconds. I can highlight how many calls were answered or hit that 30-second threshold, and then I can get a breakdown of out of those calls how many were handled or how many were abandoned. In this one here, same idea, same search criteria. I'm just displaying a separate count of how many calls hit 30 seconds, and then here a basic agent widget. I'm looking at just talk time over 1 minute, and this one I'm filtering on to identify which application was used to deliver the call to the queue. So a lot of different, a lot of more. With this feature, you can build a lot more complex and more robust widgets where you can see a lot more different types of call scenarios that you weren't able to see in the past or in the current release. The second update for CCX reporting is not available in this pre-build, but it will be released in 12.4. It is for the UCCX wrap-up data. It's a little more technical behind the scenes, but basically in version 12 of CCX, Cisco changed the way that they stored call wrap-up data. So we're including support for the new fields or for the new table entries in CCX version 12. There won't be much of a noticeable difference in the software. The only thing you'll see in the reports is in version 12 of CCX, there can be multiple wrap-up reasons for a call. So if there are, we will include both within the report. All right, next feature is a small tweak under the application settings. So if this feature will send out an email alert if a scheduled report, either Cisco CDR, UCCX, or Cube, if a scheduled report fails to be generated, be delivered, to be sent, the software can now email one address or multiple addresses with like an alert saying, "Hey, this report failed." It's not in my build yet, but once it's in the final version, users will be able to either select, and it should be included right here. They can either send the alerts to the default system like admin email address, or they can configure their own email addresses to be sent upon or to be sent to when a report fails. Next update revolves around the cradle to grave reporting. There's some improvements behind the scenes as to how the calls are linked and matched together. Here's a sample report. Long story short, when a call comes through, there's multiple call legs. Basically, behind the scenes, when the calls are being matched, there's these intermediate internal like transfer consult legs. We've just added additional logic to make sure that all of these legs are being included in the reports. And on a rare occasion, some of these legs may not make it in just because the way of Cisco links their records together. These little internal consult legs just don't always share the same global call values. And so the settings for that, we just added a quick setting right here under call analytics reporting settings where we can tell the software how many times it's going to, so how many times to go back and kind of recheck the data. So when the system grabs all of the records, it may grab all these records here. We'll go back, take all of the values that link the calls together, and then double back and search for those numbers again and again and again based upon the value here, just to confirm that all those values are indeed in the report. And if there are any other call legs that we missed, because the numbers don't match the way that they should, or just because the way that the transfers go, we'll bring them in and make sure that they come in through the through this additional cradle to grave logic. All right. Next updates. Actually, the next final 3 updates revolve around the dashboard and widgets. So this one is more on the back end as well. Go back to the application settings. So we've added some additional caching for the widgets. The key thing's kind of simple. When find those values down here, essentially with the current system, every time a widget refreshes, all of the data is re-queried for. So if the widgets are configured with like a search time window of like a couple hours or a day, it's not a big deal. But if your widgets are looking for data for like the previous week, previous 2 weeks, previous month, that can be a lot of data to refresh over and over and over again. So with the new widget caching, we will take these settings here, which fall under the application settings, and we will take them and say, okay, so in this example here, I have it set for a rolling time period window of 5 hours. So everything older than 5 hours for that widget will not be requeried. So if I have like a monthly widget, everything for the previous month up into the last 5 hours won't be refreshed because the assumption is that we're not making calls or receiving calls from more than 5 hours ago. That data has been collected, it's been stored in the system. We're not expecting a new call record from a week ago to appear in the CDR. So this way, instead of having all the additional overhead of querying and requerying all the same data that's not changing, this way we can use the resources to just query and refresh the data that could be changing or that is changing. So this should cut down on the overhead and greatly improve the efficiency in systems with like large search windows by caching the older data and requerying the more recent call records. All right, the next update, and these ones I can actually kind of demonstrate. The next update is for dashboard copying. So with the new update in 12.4, any dashboard can now be copied. It's regardless of whether the user who owns the dashboard or if the dashboard has been shared with the user. So here I'm in my admin account. I have my sample dashboard. If I edit the dashboard, I now have the option to copy. So if I copy the dashboard, I can give it a new name. I've already done it. And then this will make just a copy of the dashboard. So it's not the same thing as sharing, but I'm making my own copy of the dashboard. I've already done it here earlier and just playing around with it. So here's a copy. When copying a shared dashboard, the user who makes the copy is now the owner of the new dashboard. So if I share a dashboard to another user and they take that dashboard and make a copy of it, they are now the owner of the new dashboard, but their new dashboard will not retain the same sharing settings and like the permalink settings. All those will be disabled. So for example, I shared this dashboard here. I shared it with my other account. So if I log in with that account real quick, go under. So here's my sample dashboard that's been shared. I now have I can't, if you see when I go to edit the dashboard, I don't have the option to truly edit it. I can't delete it because it's not my dashboard. I do not own it. All I can do now is make a copy of it, which I've done here, which should be, so here's the copy that I made earlier in the day. same dashboard, but now I am the owner of this dashboard. So when I go to edit the dashboard, I can now edit, I can now copy and share and also delete. Okay. Log back out and go under my admin account again. The final update for 12.4 is non-admin dashboard sharing. So earlier in an early release, we included the ability for system administrators to share their dashboards with other users. Now in 12.4, we can now you can give a user. Let me jump in back into user account groups. You can give a user the ability to share their own dashboards with other users. So if I edit my mic account and I scroll down under the dashboard privileges, there's now an option to where the user can now share their dashboard. So previously, if a user had to be a system administrator here or an application administrator to be able to share their dashboards, now in 12.4, by giving them access to the dashboards, they can now share their dashboards. So for example, if I log back under my mic accounts, so here's my main dashboard. I now have the ability to share, so I can. This account is not an administrator, but now I can just share my dashboard with other users. All right, that was quick. Kind of concludes kind of a brief overview of all the new features with version 12.4. As these once the new version is out, we will be having additional webinars that cover a lot of the new features more in depth. And be sure to sign up for those webinars. We have one final webinar I think this week covering the UCCX, the wrap-up data, and the widgets search criteria, and then we'll probably be starting the new features next year.
Correct. Awesome job, Mike. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, everyone. Now we are in the Q&A section of the webinar. So I don't see many questions that have trickled down the line here. So if there are any questions for Mike or myself or anything with regards to what you have seen today, please go ahead and drop those into the Q&A panel right now, and we can answer them at this time. I will allow a moment or two for those fingers to start typing. If there isn't anything to question, certainly you can always reach out to support@variphy.com, and we can certainly answer any questions you may have with regards to the application. Okay, Simi, as always, here we are. Scheduled report failure alerts are going to make life, yes, she's pointing out that yes, the failure alerts, yes, are definitely going to make life much easier, and that is definitely a boosted added benefit to the enhancements coming around the corner with 12.4. So thank you for pointing that out, Simi. Does anyone else have any content to share or any questions at all? Certainly feel free to drop them in. If not, we will move on to probably the part of the session that you've all been waiting for. That would be the announcement of the gift card winner. Okay. Oh, okay, Mike, some questions are pouring in now. So since you're still sharing your screen, Brian does ask, will delivery alerts also show zero data reports?
I do not believe so. If there's a developer on the call, by all means, chime in the chat, in our chat. But I don't believe so. I believe only if the report fails before it's completed. Because a report with zero records would be a completed report.
Still a delivery report, yeah.
Right.
A successful report, yeah, not a failed report.
Like if the system's not collecting data for whatever reason, and the reports run for like a date range where there's no data, it's the reports should be just delivered as normal.
Exactly. I mean, even as well, also if the there is no data in the database, as Mike had just mentioned, and the reports are keying off of previous hour, previous day's data where there may be no data in the SQL database, certainly our monitor service to trigger an email alert would notify you of such.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out. So we have a few seconds.
Sure. Yeah, we do have
in the repository. So if we jump over, and my system's I don't have a lot going on here, but we can show in the report section in the repository when a report fails. We are currently in the current release. We are logging some sort of status, whether or not the report completed or it fails. I only have 3 reports here that I was playing around with. But if the report does fail, there will be red text here. I believe this is failed. And so as of right now, if you are not getting a report, you can go in and check to see that the report is failing or it could be completed or not. But I think we're just piggybacking off that to send out an alert.
Correct. Okay. I have a question here for you from Jeff. In our recent update, there was a bug that would not automatically share dashboards to new auto provision users. Has that been fixed?
I don't think so.
Exactly. I don't think that's been
Wait,
fixed
wait,
just
wait.
yet, Jeff. Oh,
Lane says yes.
oh. All right, there's the chat. Oh, let's chat me over in the chat here.
Lane
And
says
also
yes.
okay, so yeah, I believe that actually has been corrected in the 12.4, Jeff. So that should be taken care of, obviously, in the next release in a couple of weeks here on the 15th, I believe. Okay. Any other questions on any content related for today's session for anyone? Feel free to go ahead and drop a question in the QA panel. If not, we will move along. But certainly, if we haven't answered any of your questions, feel free as always. You can deliver those to support@verify.com, and any one of our engineers on the crack team will be able to get back to you very shortly with an answer.
Oh, and you know what? Lane also points out a couple things too, I guess, while we're still here.
Go ahead.
I see him in the chat there. He also mentions when building search sets, one of the things that it always gets me is this match all criteria option here. Essentially, if you're working with multiple criterias, in the current version or earlier versions, when you have more than one, this match all criteria combines them as like with an and operator. If I have that right, an operator. Historically, this was never enabled by default, and in 99.9% of cases, when you're doing multiple criterias, this option you want to turn it on. So they went ahead and changed the default just to do the match all criteria turned on. Then he also mentions the month quarterly scheduling, so when scheduling a report,
Yeah, the quarterly and bi-monthly, yeah.
this one slipped in. They slipped this one too, where
They did, yeah.
they did. Um,
It's a delivery option, bud.
oh, you're right. It's my first day, like I said. Uh, no schedule settings. Oh, here.
Ah,
By month. So a new feature 2 in the 12.4 that wasn't on my list, but Lane points out, we can now have monthly reports. So if you want them to go out throughout the year on a certain day of the month, it's available here. And then he also mentions quarterly scheduling, which would probably be supported by with the monthly. You can pick a certain day. You can turn on or off certain days. So if you want to schedule, quarterly, January, April, August, if I have that right, October, July. There we go, quarterly. So every 3 months. So if you want quarterly reports, we can do pick the specific months, and then just pick which day of the month you want to run for the quarterly reports. All right, and that's it.
I don't see any other questions, so we'll wrap it there. Okay,
Thank you,
so that concludes. Yes, definitely. Thank you, Lane. That concludes the Q&A session of this portion so far. So now let me go ahead and reshare my screen. Mike, if you want to drop your sharing.
Oh yeah, let me do that.
Should be able to steal it for Bill. Let's go ahead and share my screen back out. Okay, we're coming out of the wild. Let me get rid of this header. All right, so the moment that you've all been waiting for. Okay, time to award this week's $50 Amazon gift card. And the winner is Louis Petit. Woo! Congratulations, Louis. We will be in contact with your account manager and reach out to you shortly after the session to get you paid. Okay, so lastly then for next week's webinar session, as Mike had just mentioned, we will be covering a little more in depth the contact center UCCX wrap-up reasons and the widget search sets. So please register, and we look forward to seeing you. Thank you all for your time today, and enjoy the rest of your week. Bye all.